Hi, folks. Alan Rohrbeck here, President and Lead Analyst at Capital Markets Trend Advisors, Rohr International. We're in the clarity business, and part of providing that clarity was participation in Bill Berry's TTRT Roundtable on Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. And I was joined there by Jane Galena as well. And we got into the topic that's going to be discussed in this segment, which is the Santa Claus Rally. Well, the Santa Claus Rally is something I've discussed for quite a few years in my research reports under the title, Santa's Already in Town. And that's because usually by around Thanksgiving, and certainly after it in years when the market's performing well, there's a naturally bullish tendency. But I just want to let you know, you don't necessarily have to wait for the TTRT Roundtables or the TTRT Podcast Network episodes I'm currently doing to avail yourself of my research and the advantages you can derive from that. For one thing, you can just go to the TTRT platform, look up leaders, and put in ROHR, and you will get to my leader profile. If you go to the newsletters, you can see down near the bottom of those listings are both my alert, that is the macro background plus only the S&P 500 evolutionary trend view, or the research note that has the same macro background with the far more expansive international discussion. So, with that, I hope you enjoy the following description of the nature of the Santa Claus Rally, and if you want, stick around till the end, and you will avail yourself of my parody on Santa Claus and his late year tendencies, with apologies ahead of time for my relatively limited ability to carry a tune. So here we are on Santa's Already in Town.
Let's get started. Alan, the so-called Santa Claus Rally. When is it? What is it? Why is it? Tell our audience all about it.
Well, that's a great question, Bill, given the natural seasonal tendency that can vary between years. And we'll mention why as we discuss what it is. First of all, it's known as the Santa Claus Rally because it tends to come into the late year toward the Christmas holiday. And of course, this could start any time from actually early November, but certainly by right into Thanksgiving and the period following it toward the end of the year is when it is most prominent. And it depends on the individual factors and the overall trend of the market. Now, the question is there any such thing as Santa Claus in the markets? I tend to greet that with the response, humbug. There's no such thing as Santa Claus. What is there, some jolly old guy in a red suit who is passing out treats? How does he do that? Does he have an army of hacker elves who are pounding away on the keyboards, inserting profitable positions into accounts? No, of course not. Who it really is, when you get down to the drivers of the late year rally, it is actually Santa, but it's Santa Portfolio Manager. And that occurs from the people who during a sustained rally into the late part of the year have somehow managed to leave themselves less fully invested than they otherwise would like. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of managers who, regardless of whether they've done very well in a given year or have only had a modest performance, want to show that they're mostly in the market. That means out of cash. And shedding that last bit of cash that they have in their portfolio means, well, they don't care about the market being at elevated levels. As a matter of fact, the market continuing to trend higher is a bit of a driver. And the classical self-fulfilling prophecy, the better the market looks into Thanksgiving and early to mid-December, the more so there's an incentive for them to buy just to buy, even if they're planning on dumping it on January 4th or whenever it might be. So just to, put the broader context on this, it only tends to occur in the years, and they've been more so the case than not for quite a few years now, when the market is up near the highs late in the year, because that gives them the incentive to say, I've got to lose this cash and be able to tell my investors, have the street review me and say, hey, I'm essentially fully invested in a year when the market is at, for instance, an all-time high. If the market rather is near the lows of the year or trending lower into new lows for the year, the opposite is the case. And there's a technical reason behind that as well. In years where people have losses on their holdings, there is a tendency to want to do some classical tax selling, actualized losses, for the purpose of using them as write-offs against any winners during that year. And therefore, as opposed to Santa, the managers tend to want to sell and even be, of course, further into cash. Say, look how lightly invested I am. In that sense, in those years, sort of a Scrooge's Scrooge when everybody's already suffering. And we can look at something as recent as 2018. Not a terrible year on balance, but it was kind of a churny, choppy, sideways rally that peaked out and then was headed back down into November and December. Well, it was near the lows of the year in early December. And, it had to do with the Fed making a comment. The market didn't like it as well. But look at the huge temporary sell-off the market took right into the holidays that year, even if it rebounded right after them into early 2019. So it's basically why it's the market feeding on itself as portfolio managers decide whether they want to be a Scrooge and get sell to get lighter on their holdings, or whether they want to play Santa and benefit the others who've been more so fully invested on their way to becoming fully invested themselves.
All right. Thank you. That, I think, Alan, is one of the best explanations I've heard of the so-called Santa Claus Rally. Very thorough and very informative.
Okay. Well, I hope you found that discussion as informative and useful as Bill Barry suggested. And now it's time for the parody. To the tune of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, it's he buys them when they're lower, he buys them when they're high, can't have any cash on the books when New Year's Day is nigh. No need to pout, no need to cry, he'll only shout, bye, bye, bye. Santa portfolio managers already in town. And hope you enjoyed the discussion, and we'll look forward to providing you with more interesting ideas very soon. In the meantime, good hunting out there.